Google, you would search up something like www.https www.destinygear.com and slash, let's say, the character name you want to do. So for example, you would in here kind of like, I think, yeah, my membership ID profile like here. I think this is common issue with Zamp I've had. It usually doesn't quite update the program, because I'm pretty sure when I originally made this, it was working just fine. And and characters of undefined. Oh, there's big C there, so that's very odd. Oh wait, is it running before? It is running before. Oh. Alright, I'm done. So, first of all, I made this function called send request, which takes in the parameter of a URL that I use in request.get to then get the JSON response from that with the API key that I've set as nothing for now. And then I return that JSON value. This is a very important function because it'll let me call the function and not have 1,000 send requests and need to instantiate these variables a lot. I then once again, just as I used to do with the JavaScript, send a bunch of requests to get a lot of data, to set it, for example, in the user and in the character data. I won't be going over as much of this as in depth since I've already done this before, but the general idea is that I'm sending a lot of requests to fill in the data. In this Python file, I this time instead create the manifest file, Destiny2 manifest file, and specifically I decide to take a few of the tables and put them in a pickle file. I do this by sending the request to get the manifest link, and then the mobile content will put in the English format. And I then put it in a zip file and unzip it, and then connect it with an SQLite cursor. I then run through with all the table keys that I have set. For example, currently I have only Destiny item definition and stat definition and sandbox pack definition. Back to the rest request.python file, where I then decide to open the manifest.pickle and load it with pickle.load, and then I use it in down below here with these for loops, where I then get the perks and stats of an item and add it to the gear object, which I have written above here. And voila, I should have now a source code, which then at the top will show the Battle Devil's hand cannon that I have, also which power key, which I managed to snag, by the way, right here. With this, sometimes it's actually not here, so I have to put a try except around it, and that's pretty much the user data complete that I have gathered back. The most difficult thing about this was the handle DB. I struggled a lot to get this to work right, because the hashes right here for the hash keys, no, hash values, I mean, were actually wrong. And for example, the Destiny inventory item, the hash value was actually just hash, not what it previously was, which was hash. But to load in all this data and also make all these requests, as you've seen, takes a lot of time, which according to OBS is this amount of time. and I don't think it's good for the user to have to stare at a white page for how long. And so I decided to go back and make some changes. First, I decided to then go back to in the 3 for loops and change it into one while loop, which will then run through all the which will then run infinitely until all the perks have been set and all the stats have been set as well, for the static stats and the regular stats as previously. This then this is then therefore better, since I'm not running 3 consecutive loops right after each other. Then most of the things are then happening kind of asynchronously a little bit, and definitely saves up a bit of time. I then went back to the app.route, and instead of then instantly getting the character data and then rendering the index.html file, which is a different file, I'm instead rendering the page first, and in this index.html file, I'm getting the display name, which I have set in the header, and then create a variable user, which I then set in here. The index.html file, I then run this quick little HTTP request to the Python backend, which then returns the user object, which I then can set to the user variable. This then allows me to load the page as asynchronously as the backend is making all the requests and getting the user object ready, and therefore it can save us a bit of time. Now, of course, it's still not as fast as it's still very slow, and therefore I will have to make something like a kind of a loading screen, maybe, to mask all the time that's happening. Definitely I have a little bit of a plan on how it's going to look, but for now it's okay. The easy fix to fix this was to wrap the object that was going to return in a JSONify, and then add a header of access control allow origin star. This then allows anyone. Now we've pretty much come back to where we are. We've pretty much gone full circle. We're back where the page is supposed to be. We've gotten all the data back. Now we just need to style it up a little bit and put the data actually on the site, which I created this function create view, which then, instead of having all these div boxes up top, I just create them in JavaScript pure with by using inner HTML. After a little bit of a touch up on CSS, I then get my page now looks a bit like this. Still a little bit rough around the edges, and still haven't put in the stats on the different items, and still haven't rendered in the more armor and also subclass thing miscellaneous.